Hello everyone, today we are talking about the Wizard.
The Wizard has all sorts of new magical goodies, some in the class, but many of them in the spell chapter. The Wizard is the paramount collector of spells in D&D. They have the longest spell list of any class, and that list in the new player's handbook got even longer, which we were able to do partly because the spell chapter got even bigger, and many of those spells are for the Wizard because spell access and spell versatility is the beating heart of the Wizard class. And so, whereas other spellcasting classes, of course, also care about spells, but often their spellcasting is enhanced by a number of other features that they have that bring their distinctiveness, whereas the Wizard's primary distinctiveness is a huge variety of spells at their fingertips. And so we just leaned into that even more. Just as in every class, we've leaned into what really makes a particular class shine, what makes it really exciting to the people who love playing that class. And so with the Wizard, it is give us all the spells.
So much has changed with spells as well. There's a lot of quality of life improvements in so many of these spells. The Wizard is consequently the most affected by that.
Exactly. And then the Wizard has a number of new features and enhanced features that allow them to interact with that massive treasure chest of spells in the book with even greater versatility. So, for example, at first level, Wizards now have the ability to change one of their cantrips every time they finish a long rest. No other class has this capability to just every day be, no, I now know a different cantrip.
I changed my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, that's a great example of how we're leaning into that breadth and versatility that is such a distinctive aspect of the Wizard and always has been as one of the classes that has been in the game the longest. We have also, at first level, added a new feature called Ritual Adept. Now, functionally, this feature is not new. What this feature does is it allows the Wizard to cast as a ritual any ritual that is in the Wizard's spellbook. I say it's not functionally a new feature because Wizards in 2014 had that capability. We decided, though, to take that capability, which used to be inside the spellcasting feature, and we broke it out into its own class feature because we realized that there were a number of Wizard players who were missing the fact that they had that feature, because the spellcasting feature has a lot going on in it, and it can actually be easy to miss this little section about, oh, and hey, by the way, you're really great at using rituals. And we thought that was an important enough part of the Wizard's identity and really a separate bit of functionality from the base spellcasting feature that we broke it out into its own feature called, again, Ritual Adept.
Perfect.
At second level, gave a truly new feature to the Wizard called Scholar. And here, just as we have in several of our other classes where we've given people a bit more versatility outside combat. Now, not that the Wizard needed a whole lot of help in that realm, because Wizards, as a result of having so much spell versatility, have access to a lot of non-combat spells.
Yeah.
But we also, with the Wizard, wanted to do a better job of, in the game mechanics, highlighting that Wizards are meant to be the consummate scholars. That a huge part of their identity is that they are bookish folk. And so the new Scholar ability allows the Wizard to select a skill from a list in the feature and have expertise in that skill. And the skills on the list are like Arcana, History, etc. All skills that are about being an expert in essentially an academic field. And we have often, in the story text for the Wizard, talked about that aspect of wizards, we wanted to give the story some teeth in the rules, and hence the creation of the Scholar feature. Now, the wizard gets yet another brand new feature at 5th level, and this feature is called Memorize Spell. And again, leaning into the versatility of wizards, we gave them a bit more versatility. Memorize Spell now allows the wizard, when they finish a short rest, to swap out one of the level 1 or higher spells they have prepared for another one in their spell book. You know, if they know they have that one spell in their spell book that they really wish they had prepared, Memorize Spell will now allow them to do that.
And that's huge for any type of combat, like potential combat encounter, but or you are running into like something that's happening in a dungeon and you need to find a way to like get through this situation. That's perfect. That's what the wizard should be good at.
Yes, exactly. Otherwise, the wizard in its bones is largely what people sort of know and love. We've made some tweaks in how we present some of the material in the wizard, but really the heart of the new material in the base class is even greater breadth and greater versatility. And then that sets up the 4 subclasses to be very well equipped to then do what they're great at, having such a firm, versatile base for their features to be built on.
So one of the very first subclasses is the Abjurer. Tell me about this. This is the one that is a lot about defensive magic.
Yes, the Abjurer is at heart all about defending themselves and then ultimately also being able to defend others. And to aid them in their defensive capabilities, we've done a number of things both in the subclass itself, but also in the wizard's spell list. There are a number of spells that were previously not abjurations that now are.
Oh, interesting.
And we did this, because some of the spells we felt had been misclassified as other types of magic, and so we were correcting the spells themselves, making them abjurations. But this is also of practical importance to the Abjurer because it's casting abjuration spells that helps refresh their magical force field that absorbs damage.
Yeah.
And so that's another example of how the work that we've done in the spell chapter and in the wizard spell list has a powerful effect on how this subclass functions as well as the other wizard subclasses.
Absolutely.
Each of the 4 wizard subclasses now has a brand new version of their Savant feature. That feature used to give the wizard a discount on scribing spells of that school into their spell book.
Right.
We found over the last decade that in actual play, this was rarely actually being used. Often people would forget they had it.
Yeah.
And even if they remembered they had it, it was not actually doing them a whole lot of good. So we wanted to give people something more concrete that not only would they enjoy, but also really help ensure that they were connected to their favorite school of magic. So in the Abjurer, Abjuration Savant, right away gives you 2 more abjuration spells that you get to add to your spell book for free.
Okay.
And then every time you level up thereafter as a wizard, you get an additional abjuration spell for free. And so we've taken this shtick, and that shtick is now in all 4 of the wizard subclasses, ensuring that if you're an Abjurer, Evoker, Illusionist, or Diviner, you are guaranteed every time you level up to get at least 1 spell that is associated with your favorite school of magic.
Okay, perfect.
So that makes that feature in all 4 of the subclasses far more useful, and again, does some important work in making sure that you are actually connected to your favored school. Now, in the Abjurer's Arcane Ward, which is really their signature class feature, this is the feature where they get to conjure up a protective field of magic, and it can essentially take their damage for them. We made if a person's reading fast, they might miss it when they get to the feature, but we made a significant change to how the Arcane Ward works, and that is if your Abjurer has resistance, vulnerability, or immunity, those are now all applied before the Arcane Ward takes damage. And now, you'll be sad in the rare case of you having vulnerability and it being applied first. But most of the time, what this is going to mean is it's if you have acquired resistance to a particular damage type, it now means your Arcane Ward can benefit from that resistance.
Absolutely.
And we then also applied that improvement to the projected ward feature that you get later, where you then have the ability to share your protection with friends. But in that case, rather than it being your resistance or vulnerability or immunity that's applied, it's theirs. So if, let's say, you're protecting your friend who has poison resistance and they take poison damage, their resistance to poison damage will kick in first, then the Arcane Ward will take the remaining damage. And then if there's still damage left over, then only then will it reach the person who's being protected.
The benefit of this is if you have an abjuration spell that can give you resistances like that, and you cast it, you are not only funneling energy into your shield, essentially, but you are also applying those resistances that spell would have to that damage at the same time. You're kind of gaming the system constantly. You're growing your shield and then making it more resistant at the same time, all in one.
Before you get to your level 14 feature, you actually get a brand new feature as an Abjurer called Spellbreaker. At level 10, Spellbreaker now makes it so that you always have the counterspell and dispel magic spells prepared, and you can cast Dispel Magic as a bonus action. And when you cast either of the spells with the spell slot, if the spell fails to either counter another spell or dispel a spell, your spell slot is not expended. This is the wizard who not only is, another spellcaster does not want to get into a spell duel with the Abjurer, but also Dispel Magic being a bonus action means if you're in one of those situations in the game where, sometimes there'll be a battle where there's a MacGuffin with some kind of magical protection, and most other characters would have to use their entire action to try to break that protection on it. The Abjurer can just walk up as a bonus action, try to shatter the spell, and still take their action to do something else.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so Spellbreaker is a really exciting new feature for this subclass. And then at level 14, the Abjurer still gets their spell resistance that they had before.
That's very fun. Again, you're like honing in on what makes the Abjurer, that wish fulfillment, that fantasy that you would have, concrete.
Absolutely. We then had a similar approach with the Diviner, because the Diviner was in such fantastic shape in 2014. A very beloved subclass, a very effective subclass. So the main things that people who love playing Diviners have to look forward to is the improved Divination Savant, which like the Savant spells and the other subclasses, make sure that you always get some divination spells as you level up as a wizard. When you get up to level 10 and get the Third Eye ability, that you can now use this as a bonus action rather than an action. And we did this because we wanted you to be able to unlock the cool senses that this feature gives you, even in the midst of a battle, and not lose your whole turn doing it. We also fine-tuned and upgraded the options within the third eye. So the dark vision option, for instance, now extends to 120 feet. We did this partly because we now have some of the species in the book who have dark vision of 120 feet. We also combined some of the abilities that were present before under the third eye into one called simply now See Invisibility, which allows you now to cast the See Invisibility spell without expending a spell slot. So some nice quality of life improvements, particularly in that third eye feature that you get at level 10.
In the playtest for all of this, does combat feel significantly faster? It just feels like there's a new momentum because so many things are being shifted to a bonus action. Like it just feels like things are going to be moving so much quicker in D&D now.
So it varies depending on what characters do. And also some things that used to be bonus actions
Right.
are now actions or are now a part of some other action.
Right.
So it really is been just a large holistic shuffling of things to try to get them to be in the right part of the action economy to keep things moving, but also to make it so that things feel like they are costing the right part of the action economy.
Right.
Often we'll make the change because something as an action just wasn't pulling its weight. And so then we either beefed it up so that it did pull its weight as an action, or we turned it into a bonus action or a reaction or not an action at all, and it just became something that happens as part of another action or at the start or end of your turn.
Okay.
And so there are tweaks like that we made within the wizard, but through the entire game.
Okay, perfect.
So how about next we talk about the Evoker?
If you love dealing damage and also not destroying your entire party, this is the subclass for you. So I'm terrified of what might have improved because it was already very strong.
So yeah, the Evoker and the Diviner were two of the most solid subclasses in the 2014 Player's Handbook, just in terms of delivering what they needed to deliver for their identity.
Yeah.
And so because of that, in each of these subclasses, our job was mostly don't mess anything up. And so in the Evoker, they get their Evocation Savant feature now. So again, like the other wizard subclasses, they're going to get supplied by evocation spells throughout their career as a wizard. But then we did make a major enhancement in the Potent Cantrip feature. Potent Cantrip used to pertain only to saving throws, and specifically saving throw cantrips. The issue is there were not a ton of those for evokers to use in the 2014 Player's Handbook, and even subsequent to that book, there were only a few. And so what we did is we've made it so that Potent Cantrip now applies not just to cantrips you cast that involve a saving throw, but also ones that involve an attack roll. And now, when you cast those at a creature and you miss or the creature succeeds on its saving throw, you still deal half damage to them.
That's amazing.
This is really meant to point at the fact that the Evoker is in many ways the premier battle magician in the game, and better than pretty much anyone can ensure that they're going to deal a little bit of damage every time they take a turn if they're casting a damaging spell.
And this happens sooner, doesn't it?
This happens at level 3 when you get the subclass.
Yeah.
Now, the wizard subclasses, which used to kick in at level 2, now all kick in at level 3.
Right.
Again, because now all classes get their subclass at level 3.
Perfect.
Otherwise, the Evoker is the amazingly powerful and effective subclass that it always was.
Overchannel. Sculpt spell.
Yes. Yeah, with Sculpt Spell continuing to be a really pivotal part of the Evoker's kit, because if you have a subclass that's all about bringing the boom, it sure is nice if they're not blowing up their friends.
Now, there are some significant changes to a subclass that I actually quite love, that are new and exciting, and that is for the Illusionist.
Yes, the Illusionist, in addition to getting their Illusion Savant feature at level 3, then right away has in the subclass 2 new features. There's one of them is also at level 3 called Improved Illusions, and then at level 6 they get a brand new feature called Phantasmal Creatures.
Yeah.
Following the Unearthed Arcana series and getting feedback on the Illusionist, and also in our own playtests of the Illusionist, we felt that this subclass needed more. And so one of our goals with these new features is to make it so that the Illusionist is actually the best subclass at casting illusions. And so the Improved Illusions feature that they now get at level 3 is all about that. First, they can now cast their illusion spells without providing verbal components. We did this because we wanted an illusionist, if they want to be able to create illusions silently. And in especially exploration and social situations in the game, this will be immensely helpful, because now, the spell might have a somatic component, and so the illusionist might be twiddling their fingers, but doesn't have to say anything aloud. And so they might be able to cause an illusion to suddenly appear in a situation, and no one will know that it was that person over there who did it. We've also made it in this same feature that any of the illusionist's illusion spells that has a range of at least 10 feet now has that range increased by 60 feet.
Oh, wow.
And so that also now means that illusionists can create their illusions in a much larger range than other characters can.
Be way more tactical about distractions and things like that.
Exactly. If someone else, has to have the illusion just within, 10 feet, the illusionist can have their illusion 70 feet over there. And giving them much more flexibility in how they essentially mess with people in a particular situation.
And harder to tell from that distance that is an illusion, right? Like, just as if I was a dungeon master, like if there was an illusion of someone, 60 feet away, like how good is your visual acuity at that point for you to identify that is fake?
Yes.
Yeah, significantly less.
But Improved Illusions has even more.
Okay.
So what it did before is it gave you the minor illusion cantrip.
Right.
So that also is included in the feature. That cantrip does not count against the number of cantrips that you know as a wizard. It, just like it did in 2014, this feature lets you create both a visual and an audible illusion simultaneously with minor illusion, and you can cast minor illusion as a bonus action. And then at level 6, you get Phantasmal Creatures.
Yeah, this is really amazing.
And here, we wanted to give illusionists an ability that had a bit more combat teeth, and also really helped fulfill that fantasy of, I create an illusory bear and it roars and creates havoc, and in addition to creating a distraction, can actually fight in battle. And so what Phantasmal Creatures does is it gives the illusionist the Summon Beast and Summon Fey spells. The illusionist always now has these 2 spells prepared. And by the way, here's another great example of how we were able to lean on the expanded spell chapter of this book to enhance our classes and subclasses, because Summon Beast and Summon Fey weren't in the 2014 Player's Handbook. They're new spells in the 2024 Player's Handbook, and so the illusionist can now benefit from them. And the illusionist now has the option of casting these 2 spells as normal, of conjuring up a beast or a fey creature, but the illusionist also has the option of changing the school of magic on these 2 spells from conjuration to illusion. And if the illusionist does that, you can cast the illusory version without expending a spell slot. But if you do that, the illusion has half as many hit points as the non-illusory version would have.
Right.
But what this basically
But
means...
you can still opt to do the full hit points if you want.
Yes, you can. But what this means is an illusionist can, once they reach level 6, cast Summon Beast and Summon Fey, each of those spells, once per day without expending a spell slot, as long as you summon the illusory version of the beast or the Fey.
Right.
So this is going to be a ton of fun, super useful, not only in combat, but even in exploration situations. If, say, you need one of these creatures to show up and because it can fly, or, go get that thing over there, or, especially, hey, it's an illusion, don't feel bad about it.
I know.
It go step on that trap.
This is walking through the Tomb of Horrors one by one.
Yes. So this feature combined with improved illusions is really going to bring the Illusionist to life, I think, in a way we haven't seen in 5th edition.
And you're using the stat blocks that are in those summoning spells, but you can make it look like anything you want, really, because you're an illusionist, right? Like, that's the flavor of it.
Because, you can, with these spells, flavor how they look.
Yeah.
Now then, at level 10, you still get the Illusory Self feature, which is the Illusionist's defensive ability, but a really nice set of enhancements we've made to the feature is, first, we've made it so that it's triggered by you being hit by an attack rather than attack roll being simply made at you.
Yeah.
So you won't even be tempted to use it until it's really necessary for you to use it. And then the other thing we did is we made it so that if you want, you can restore your use of this feature by expending a spell slot of level 2 or higher.
That's huge.
And especially at higher levels, wizards have a whole lot of spell slots.
Yeah.
And so the illusionists, if they want to, can farm their spell slots to get more uses of illusory self.
That makes you a very defensible character.
And so all of these changes combined mean in many ways the illusionist is a new subclass.
Yeah.
Because really the only part of the subclass that is largely the same as it was before is its capstone ability at level 14, Illusory Reality.
Which has always been amazing.
Yeah, and that's, we didn't want to touch that because it is such an iconic ability of the subclass of being able to, and this is the example we give in the feature itself of create an illusory bridge with, a spell that's able to create an illusion like that, and then use this feature to say, nah, it's a real bridge.
Yeah.
And have you and your companions cross it, and then, maybe get other people, your foes, to try to follow you, and then, whoops, it's back to being an illusion.
I have been up to many shenanigans with that particular feature, both in villains and as a player. If you wanted to be a really nasty villain, you could have an entire room that is just, there's a spiked pit below, and you create the illusion of a floor that is real, and then if things pop off, you just cause everything to fall. There's 1,000 uses for that. It's so good. Yeah. And we also have more guidance about illusion magic as well, correct?
Yes. So in the rules glossary, there is now a section on illusions, and that section addresses some of the more common questions that come up about illusions, simple things like how are they affected by the environment around them. But also, as we reviewed all of the illusion spells in the book's massive spell chapter, we made sure to add in clarifications anywhere we felt the spell could be clearer about how its illusion worked. But also, again, some of that clarity isn't in those spells themselves, but in the new glossary entry on illusions. And that glossary, which I know we'll talk about in more depth in another video, really is going to be everyone's buddy at the game table.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about it now, not only because of the illusion section for illusionists, but also how much of that rules glossary will be useful to wizard players and players of other spellcasters, because that rules glossary is going to define all the areas of effect that your spells deal with, all the conditions that your spells apply. There's guidance when it comes to spellcasting in the rules glossary on teleportation, on telepathy, and on being dead, and what that means, which maybe when we get to the cleric video, we can dive into a little bit the rules glossary section on being dead.
Perfect. It's a great tease for the cleric video.
Yes.
I'll have to make that next. All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The New Player's Handbook is available for pre-order right now on D&D Beyond. You can find that link in the video description. And you can also find the new Core Rulebooks bundle for pre-order, both physical and digital. And when you pre-order the 2024 Core Rulebooks digital and physical bundle, you also receive an exclusive Gold Dragon digital mini, the Dragons of D&D digital art book, 15 digital dice sets, 34 frames, and 15 backdrops. Thank you so much for watching. We have a ton of video content coming out about the New Player's Handbook and all the new Core Rulebooks, the new Monster Manual, the new Dungeon Master's Guide. So be sure to check out all of that content. And thank you for watching.